Namaskar and uh, welcome everybody to this webinar hosted by Philosophy Family in collaboration with Wisdom Intellectual Forum on Western Philosophy series. Well, during the course of the last lecture, Professor Pramod spoke on epistemology and metaphysics. He tried to see where they fall apart and where they seem to come together, or where they can be taken together. So, in the process, he tried to see a sort of establish a sort of defining relationship between epistemology and metaphysics. And very rightly, he has brought this issue and very nicely he responded to the questions that were asked during the course of the last lecture. But today he will be speaking on a different title. It is on Realism, Idealism and Solipsism, which refers to the philosophy of Berkeley. Well, I welcome Professor Pramod along with other participants to this webinar. And I hope, like the earlier lectures, this lecture on Berkeley would also contribute a lot to all of us participating in this webinar. So, without wasting much time, let us move to Professor Das for the lecture. Over to Professor Das.
Namaskar, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Both, sir, audible and visible.
Thank you. Respected Professor A.M. Narnarao, sir. Very esteemed K.C. Patnaik, sir. And other participants of this session. Today we shall discuss realism, idealism and solipsism. This is a very beautiful synthesis. When we are talking about realism, we speak of the common sense idea or common sense philosophy that whatever we see, whatever we perceive, whatever we experience, that is real. That means our experience is real. And the object of our experience is also real. Both the experience and the object of experience are real. And this is common sense. This is not philosophy. This is not religion. This is not spirituality. This is only common sense. Each and every common man can understand this. When we are cooking in the kitchen, we directly perceive the processing, the process, what to add, when to stop. That all depends upon our direct perception, and we take that perception granted. Simply, similarly, when we were driving our scooty or car, there also we rely on our direct perception. There is no time for speculation, there is no time for philosophy, there is no time for spirituality. In the immediate perception, we perceive and immediately we have to act or react or respond. But that should be the immediate effects of our perception. And how it is possible? If we take our perception as granted. Sometimes there may be any mistake. Sometimes we may be wrong in our perception, but we have to bear with that mistake because there is no other way. So, this is common sense. Suppose we see somebody, immediately we have to greet, we have to respond, we have to express we have to welcome. We have to behave in a particular way. If we see somebody, maybe senior, or if we see somebody who is junior to us, then our pattern of behavior depends upon our immediate perception. If we perceive but do not react accordingly or immediately, then that is a sign of abnormality. So realism is that we have to accept the object of perception as real. If we are going to interpret it, if we are going to challenge it, if we are going to doubt it, then that enters into the domain of a philosophy or intellectual debate. So that is not everybody's cup of tea, and that is not natural for a common man. We all are engaged in such type of debates, philosophical discussions, but that is decent in our drawing room, that is decent in our conference hall, that is decent in our discussion. But we cannot live our life with that type of attitude in every step of our life, because we are directly concerned with the facts of life, and facts of our life are always changing, and we have to cope with certain changes. So realism is also two types. One is called naive realism and the other is called representative realism. What we discussed now, that is naive realism, that our perception is real, the object of our perception is real, the world is means the object of perception is as we perceive it, underline it, as we perceive it. The object of perception is as we perceive it. If it is not as we perceive it, then we shall be confused. We cannot act accordingly. We can't drive a car. We can't do anything. So whatever I perceive, it is as I perceive it. It is not different from my perception. So, and the other point is, my perception is optional. That means that cannot affect the existence of the object. Suppose I have not seen America, that does not mean America does not exist. I have not seen sun. We are perceiving sunshine, the effect of sun, but the real sun nobody has seen. But that does not mean sun does not exist. That means the object of our perception exists independent of our perception. Whether you are able to perceive or not, that is a separate question. It cannot be accountable for the existence of the object. That means the existence of anything is independent, is free from our subjective perception, reflection, interpretation, criticism, debate, discussion, everything, even likes and dislikes. Suppose I will say, I don't like New Delhi, I don't like England. That does not affect the existence of something. I don't like winter season. So existence is neutral. It is there. It is independent of subjective perceptions, subjective experience. So naive realists say, or common sense view of realism says that existence is independent of perception. We cannot take perception as the standard of the existence of anything. And that perception is real, and we really perceive the real object. I perceive my wife, and that wife is the real wife. Otherwise, I shall be confused. If I shall perceive my wife and I shall doubt that whether she is my wife or not, then all the times I shall be confused with certain doubts. So, what if suppose there is lunch and I am ready for to have my lunch, I should not have any doubt for it, because whatever I am perceiving, that is all right. That is as I perceive. Whatever I perceive, that is correct. Otherwise, all the time, the perceiver, the knower, will be confused, and we can't live a normal life. Perhaps in that sense, people give a satiric comment to philosophers as they are mad persons. Because if you try to philosophize on each and every subject and in every fact of your life, then that is just like madness. You just accept the reality as real. There is nothing to philosophize, there is nothing to speculate, there is nothing to criticize. This is the position of a naive realism. You accept the object of perception as the object itself, and that is real. Your perception is real, the object is real, and your behavior is also real. The way you are reacting, you are responding to that situation, to that fact, that is real. This is one position, and many people, they believe in this philosophy. And basically Western philosophers, those who are materialists, Vastuvadi, they believe in such type of philosophy. Whatever is the immediate object of my sensation, that is pleasurable, that is acceptable, that can give me pleasure. So this leads to hedonism. Hedonism means the pleasure is the ultimate standard of morality. Pleasure is the ultimate value of life. If something gives me pleasure, if something gives me immediate pleasure, that is good. Pleasure with good. If something is pleasant, that is good. Even if you tell a lie, if that lie gives pleasure to somebody, and because this is the human habit, we are all satisfied with false praise. That praise is false, that you are so handsome, you are speaking so well, and you are a brilliant professor. These are all false praise, but the person is satisfied. That means the words should be pleasant, and everything should be pleasant. So this is the outcome of this naive realism, because whatever I am perceiving, that cannot be doubted, and there can't be any mistake in my perception, and that should be taken as granted. That is real. So such philosophers, such philosophers, or the people who believe in such philosophy, they will never go for metaphysical speculations of past life, future life, soul, God. Not that, because we don't perceive God. We don't perceive. Two things are there. Whatever we perceive that is real, that should be accepted, and whatever we do not perceive, and it is not perceivable. Perceive and perceivable, because God is not perceivable. Something is not perceived by my open eye, but it is perceivable through a scientific instrument. Through ultra microscope, we can perceive the germs. So it is perceivable. But God is such an entity which is not directly perceived, nor is it perceivable. So don't go for such metaphysical speculations. Similarly, the past life is a speculation, future life is a speculation, and just live with the present life, just live with the present pleasant situations, and keep relationship with the people, those who give you the mental satisfaction and material help. They are your friends. So as a result, the retired father is a useless person if he has no pension, because he is not useful. Because we don't perceive the usefulness of a retired father, so he is thrown to the last room of the building, or he is shifted to the old age home. Because after retirement, the father is useless property, useless commodity. So father is a commodity. Wife is a commodity of pleasure. So if that pleasant element is absent in wife, then this is not wife. So immediate pleasure, that is the ultimate value of life. So philosophy and philosophical views are directly connected with human culture, human life. As the philosophy, as your conviction, so is your lifestyle. So this is one part. The second part is representative realism. Representative realism. Here we enter into the philosophical discussion. This is not common sense. Representative realism is philosophical. Here we have to apply our intellect, mano, buddhi. Buddhi has the discriminative power. Buddhi is that which can discriminate from good to bad, from right to wrong. So the discriminative intelligence, that is buddhi. So here, when we do philosophy, we are beyond the level of mind, and we land in the level of intelligence. Our intellect, we apply our intellect. There is also some problem, we shall discuss that, but that is better than the state of mind. Mind is satisfied with immediate perception. Mind is satisfied with immediate perception, but intellect cannot be satisfied with immediate perception, because intellect will ask question. Intellect is inquisitive by nature. Intellect is questioning by nature. So intellect will question. What is that? What is that I am perceiving? Is it real or unreal? Is it good or bad? Is it right or wrong? Is it beneficial to me or to society or not? These questions will come to our mind, because we are all rational human beings. Because we have rationality, we can go for a second decision. We shall go for a second thought. So the possibility of this second thought is only a human possibility, because we can have we have the ability of second thinking. So the first order of thinking or perceiving, this is the second order of perceiving or thinking about something. So representative realism that says that we do not perceive the object directly because the object cannot be perceived directly. Whatever we perceive, whatever we perceive, they are only qualities of that object. So here comes a distinction between object and its qualities. So there are so many demonstrations about it that whether we really perceive the object or qualities. So if we in naive realism we take our perception granted. We don't think deeply about the nature of our perception and about the nature of the object of our perception. We don't do that. But because we are rational beings, because we are philosophers by nature, every man is a philosopher. Every man has philosophic aptitude, philosophic mind. Every man. It is not that the person who is studying philosophy is a philosopher. Therefore, Aristotle said, every man is a philosopher. Even the farmer, I always say, the farmers of the village, they are the great philosophers. They are the men of physics, metaphysics, what not. So philosophy is innate. Philosophy is our basic nature. So our mind wanders. Our mind wanders about what is. Suppose something is, then mind starts wondering. What is it really? Is it really that? Is it really this? So these questions will come. So whatever I am perceiving, what it is that object. Suppose table. I am perceiving a table. So the question is whether I am really perceiving the table or the qualities of table. This is the difference. Naive realists will say, don't philosophize, don't speculate anything. You are perceiving the table. Okay. But representative realists will say, no, I don't see the table. Table is a name. I know that this object which appears to be a table is a table because I know it in my experience, and that is in my memory. So I remember that such an object looks like a table. So therefore it is a table. We follow this process, but that happens so quickly that we fail to notice. So what happens when we see an object? Actually, we do not see the object directly because because our sense organs can be acquainted with, can come in contact with only the qualities, table-like qualities, chair-like qualities, anything, any object, glass-like qualities. And I am perceiving the qualities. Such qualities are experienced previously, and I know that such qualities taken together are named as a table. Table is a name. Table is a sound. That is a name. Table. This is a table. Suppose this is not called table. Suppose this is called dog. Suppose this glass is called dog by our linguistic convention, then we shall call it dog. What is it? It is a dog. We call it a glass because we call it glass. We call a dog as a dog because we call a dog as a dog. So we just call an object in its name from our past experience. So actually, I don't see the table. I see the qualities. But how can we prove it? Mere saying is not sufficient. How can we prove it? Now here we are asked to close your eye. Close your eye artificially or naturally you go to sleep. Sleep is natural. When you wake up in the early morning, that wake up is also natural. But if you don't wait for 1 day or wait for the night that we will go for a natural sleep, then you will wake up and you will see everything fresh. If you don't have that patience, just close your eye. Then everything is dark. And you don't have any knowledge what you are going to see because your eyes are closed. So the stranger, the person who is in front of you, he will show you an object which you don't know. So suppose that object is a pen, and you open your eye and you see that something, and you say it is a pen. But when your eyes were closed, you did not have any idea that I am going to see the pen. You don't have that idea. But the moment you opened your eye, you immediately say that this is a pen. This is one situation. In another situation, the stranger will show you something which you have never seen before. That is something, that is a new thing, which is not in your experience. So when you will open your eye, you can't say this is that, because you don't know its name. You are not acquainted with the qualities, and you don't know the name. So then the eye opener will ask the question, what is it? The stranger will say, I am asking you what it is. But the eye opener will say what it is. That means the object is absent there. Then what is present? Now I see only these qualities. He will say, suppose he will say that this is X. That new thing is X, and the new thing is not a strange in day-to-day life, today's life, because in the modern life, every day we are getting new products. When our children, our students, they are introducing many new objects. And we are surprised to know what it is that. No, sir, this is that. You don't know, sir, this is that. Oh, is it that? Okay. So we have to remember new things, new products. That means the second situation. And the third situation, even if you know the new objects for the first time and you get to know the name of that object, that becomes your old product and that is stored in your memory. Next moment, whenever you will be shown that object, you will say that this is X. Likewise, you say that this is a table, this is a chair. You can also speak of that new object. So from this, it is proof that our sensation is only connected with the qualities of objects, not the object itself. And the fact is that there is no such object at all, perceivable object at all, because whatever is perceived, they are only qualities. So this is the stand of representative realism. That means we do not see the real object, we see the representatives. Representatives means the qualities of that object. Exactly, that is the Advaita Vedanta philosophy. When we say, what is it? We can't say that this is Brahman. We see that we say that this is tree, this is mountain, this is my father, this is my mother, this is my brother. These are all the modifications. These are all modifications. These are all the qualities. But the real object of these qualities is Brahman, which is not perceived through our sense organs. So this is another dimension. We are not discussing Indian philosophy here, but the connection is there. So that is the difference between truth and appearance. The truth does not appear to us. Truth does not appear to us through our sense organs. Whatever is appearing to us, that is only the appearance of the reality. That is not the reality. So Brahman does not appear to us as Brahman. Brahman appears as Jagat. So this appearance is true or false, Jagat Satya or Jagat Mithya. There are many interpretations. But this is the point, that through our sense organs, we cannot perceive the real object, the substance, but we can perceive the qualities. And this is very scientific also. This is very scientific. Whenever a doctor examines a patient, go. When a doctor examines the patient, doctor is not aware of who he is, whether he is a rich man or a poor man, or Rama or Hari or Gopal. This is not. He looks at the symptoms of the disease, and the symptoms are the qualities only. These are the qualities. So when we are going for any service and we are attending any interview, the experts are going through our certificates. These are the certificates. The certificates of whom, that does not matter. These are the certificates. Whether the certificates are valid or invalid, whether that fulfill our demand or not, that matters. So the qualities matter, not the substance. So this is very scientific also, because the substance itself is metaphysical. So that is not perceived. So we are only concerned with the qualities, not the substance. This is the view of, this is called representative realism. So such philosophers, such thinkers, they made a distinction between primary qualities and secondary qualities. This is another step to representative realism, that even if there are certain qualities, these qualities are also different, because there are certain qualities which do not change, and there are some qualities which are changing. Suppose I see the color of my dress in the showroom in one way, but when I bring it to my home, I see it in another way. So the color changes, taste changes, sight changes. All these are changing qualities. So how can we rely on the changing qualities? This is a challenge to representative realism. If you speak of the qualities, but the qualities are changing from time to time, so they will say no. Qualities are also of the two types. There are some primary qualities and secondary qualities. Secondary qualities are sense dependent. They are dependent upon our subjective elements, subjective sense organs. So that varies from person to person. That my perception of qualities is different from other perceptions. But there are some primary qualities like emotion, figure, solidity, extension. These are the primary qualities of object which inhere in the object, which exist in the object. They are permanent. They are same to all. They are same. That cannot be different. This is their view, but that is also rejected by idealism. That we shall discuss after that. So they say that because of the presence of the primary qualities, we can say that objects exist, though they are not perceived. Though I don't perceive the table, I perceive only the qualities, but the table exists as the substratum or the supporter or the source of these qualities, because no attributes without substance. If there is not a substance, then we cannot speak of the attributes. If a child is there, then his or her parents must be present, must exist. Even if they are dead, they exist. Because without parents, a child cannot be born. So from the effect, we can logically prove the existence of a cause. So because there are primary qualities, from that primary qualities, we can speak of the substantial status of that object, that object exists as a substance. So this is the claim of representative philosopher, the representative realists, that though we see the representatives, logically the question comes, of whom these are representatives. Now the election is coming. So when we are going on election duty, the candidates will send their representatives. Every candidate will send his representative, and we shall allow them to the booth. That this man is the representative of this candidate. So from this, we mean that this man is present here as a representative, means there must be a candidate of whom he is the representative. Therefore, because he should have a certificate that I am the representative of candidate X, another will be the representative of candidate Y, another will be the representative of candidate Z. So the representative is there means the main candidate must be there. So the attributes are present means, the qualities are present means, the substance, though it is not seen, though it is not experienceable, though it is not perceived, that must exist. So this is a logical assumption. We have to understand this. We cannot say that you are the representative, call your candidate. Then we shall be sure that you are the representative. No. This representative has an order with him, has a certificate. So from that, we have to logically accept that this representative is a representative of a living candidate. That the candidate is alive, and he is meant for this election process. Similarly, from the qualities, logically we have to accept the existence of the substance. So these two views are the main, very important positions of realism. Either you accept reality directly, or you accept the reality through the process. In our common life, in our day-to-day life, if we shall speak it spiritually, we can say that many of us, we deal with direct realism, naive realism in our daily life. We ignore the qualities. We ignore the representative realism. We accept everything as real. But when we go to hospital, there we experience how we are fragmented to the qualities. that every part of my body is going to be examined, whether my heart is perfect or not, whether my brain is perfect or not, what is my blood sugar, what is my BP. All these are the fragments of my body which are to be examined separately. What is the condition of my kidneys? What is all the parts are separately real, and these are all qualities, and this is the reality. But in our daily life, we live our life with the maya of the one unitary whole, that I am Pramod, I am professor, I am so and so, I am so and so. This is the difference between knave and representative. When we face a crisis, we realize that we are fragments. Each and every part of our body is important, is precious for our existence. But otherwise, we ignore. We ignore our hand, we ignore our leg, ignore our tensions, ignore many things. And the whole life is lived with ignorance. But when the crisis comes, we become conscious of each and every part of the physical part, the social phenomena also. In the real crisis, you will know what is the real nature of the brother. How many people really love you? You can know that in the moment of crisis. There we will come to know the qualities. Otherwise, you are biased by, illusioned by the wholeness. So this is the dimension of realism, dimension of a human understanding of realism. And this is real, but to what extent it is real? That speaks of your realization of the reality. Whether you are satisfied with the qualities or you are satisfied with a speculative totality. Anyway, so now we shall discuss idealism. This is another attempt that idealist philosophers say that if you accept, if you jump, if you can proceed from the position of naive realism to the representative realism, then why not we proceed to the next step? If by having deep thinking, you can proceed from the naive realistic position to the representative realistic position, then if you think more deeply into the facts of our perception and about the status of the object of perception, then you can proceed to the next step, that the primary qualities which are supposed to be the original qualities of the object, they are also secondary. If there are primary qualities, then there are objects. This is the claim of representative realists. So idealist philosophers will claim all qualities are secondary. There is no primary qualities at all. All qualities are secondary means all qualities are sense dependent. All qualities are nothing but the projection of our sensation. So there is no primary qualities independent of our perception. So the fundamental claim of a realistic philosophers is that the object exists independent of our perception, either totally or partially. Partially means with primary qualities. Totally means I see the object as it is. So the object exists independent of our knowledge, independent of our perception, partially or totally. Idealist philosophers claim the object does not exist independent of our perception, either partially or totally. because all qualities are secondary qualities, and all qualities that you perceive, that is nothing but our sensation. We are only sensing. We are only sensing the object. That means the object that we perceive, everything that we perceive, that is only the projection of our sensation. That is only our sensation. Idealist philosophers like Berkeley, they will claim that there is no distinction between primary qualities and secondary qualities. There is no abstract idea about, as said John Locke, that there are certain abstract ideas, there are certain complex ideas, that complex ideas are made out of simple ideas, and abstract ideas are the abstraction, the capacity of a mind to abstract the qualities from the object. Berkeley says these are all nonsense. If there is any philosophical crisis in philosophy, that is only due to the abstraction. That is only due to the complex ideas. Mind should not be misused. Our thinking should not be misused, taking this abstraction as a methodology, or dealing with the abstract ideas. That is not the healthy philosophical reflection. If you take help of abstract ideas, then that cannot help you build a healthy philosophical system, because these are all because abstraction cannot be the real, because by name it is abstraction. So abstraction is abstraction. We should think of the reality. What is the reality? The reality is that nothing is real. Everything is sensuous. Everything is projected through my sense organs. This world is my subjective world. This world is my subjective world. The matter does not exist. So Berkeley, there are so many idealist philosophers, subjective idealists, objective idealists. We shall discuss that. But Berkeley was a subjective idealist. Berkeley is saying that there is no matter. Matter does not exist. So he rejected material substance. And he said that to be is to be perceived. To be is to be perceived. That means he made a connection between perception and existence. This, very clearly he is claiming that don't confuse your perception with the existence of something. Your perception is a process. Your perception is a process. When you are naming the object, that is another process. Don't combine these two processes and make your judgment, make your knowledge. Just your psychological process or the sensuous process, you are perceiving something. That is only perception. When you are giving a name to it, that is your convention. Because of the help of certain conventions, we have to make the communication possible. Otherwise, we can't make our communication by the library of sensations. We have to give a name to make our communication possible. Suppose I have to say that this is a table, because table is a very short name, because I have to speak many things. So if I shall go on describing the sensation of tables, then the communication will not be possible. So for that purpose only, for that linguistic benefit, for that for the benefit of the communication, we are using such general ideas. That table is a general idea, man is a general idea. All general ideas are used only to make our communication possible. For the purpose of communication, this is beneficial. But when we come to the reality, when we are asking the question of existence, whether my perception is a guarantee to the existence of something, here Berkeley says, or the subjective idealists say, no, perception is only perception. It has nothing to do with the existence of anything. Therefore, matter does not exist. So no matter exists. If matter is out, if the body is out, if extension is out from the reality, then what remains? There remains only ideas. So only ideas are real. Everything is present. Everything is presented to us only in the form of ideas. We are dealing with ideas. So this is the view of Berkeley. Now the point is, how can these ideas are combined? How these ideas are synthesized? How can we make a judgment? How can we understand each other? How can we make our communication possible? So here Berkeley claims, so if there are ideas, then there must be a mind. There must be a mind who is the substratum of these ideas. That means no ideas without a mind. So Berkeley rejected objects and qualities. No object exists and no qualities exist. Whatever we call the objective qualities, they are nothing but the subjective sensations. And they are formed into ideas. Then how can these ideas to be synthesized? How can we relate one idea with another idea? How can there be criticism? How can we criticize somebody's idea? How can we synthesize different ideas? And how these ideas will operate? Here Berkeley says there must be a mind who is organizing all these ideas. So here Berkeley took the help of a mental substance as the substratum of our ideas. Number one. Number two, then Berkeley is claiming another thing very interestingly, that there is a God. I had told many times that because without taking the help of a God, a philosopher is not free to give his own view. This is a very pathetic for a philosopher. But this is not in Indian culture. In Indian culture, we say aham brahmasmi means we say aham brahmasmi. Jagat mithya. We don't fear anybody. I am Brahman. When I say I am Brahman, I say without any fear. I don't have any fear for Shankaracharya or any fear for Ramanuja or any fear for any Acharya, any teacher, any scripture. No fear. So philosophy should be free thinking. But when we are giving one principle to matter and we compromise that principle when we are speaking of the status of mind and God, then this is a compromise. This is not a philosophy, what I had told in the last session. So here, ideas becomes the attributes and mind becomes the substance. Again, Berkeley says, there is not only one mind, there are different minds of different people. Because if I have mind, I have my own mind, and Raman does not have his mind, or my wife does not have her mind, or my teacher does not have his mind, then with whom I shall communicate? So when I am sleeping, ideas are also there in other minds. The idea of a table is there in other minds. So there are other minds And when other minds fail to conceive something, then there is God. God is the infinite mind who is the real monitor, regulator of all these ideas. So by this way, Berkeley constructed his philosophy in a very what we shall say diplomacy, a diplomatic way. How it is diplomatic? Diplomatic in the sense, when we take the sensuous element very strictly, then matter is rejected. Matter is rejected. But when we are speaking spiritually, so Berkeley is a spiritualist philosopher. And it is also very interesting to know that not only rationalist philosophers are spiritual, empiricist philosophers are also spiritual. So Berkeley is an empiricist, Berkeley is an immaterialist, and Berkeley is also a spiritualist philosopher. Therefore, he introduced God, he introduced an infinite mind, the infinite intelligence, who is the monitor of the synthesis of all these ideas. So, when a finite mind fails to understand something, it is understood by the infinite mind. Therefore, there is understanding in nature. Why something is understood? If the understanding is the autonomy of one mind, then understanding cannot be holistic by nature. Understanding will be collapsed. So two minds conflict, and that is God. In the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, it is also said that there are different levels of consciousness, there are different levels of minds. The higher mind, over mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, super mind, then Sachidananda. There are different levels of mind. So whatever is not understood by a finite mind, a lower mind, that is understood by a higher mind. Whatever is not understood by a student, that is understood by a teacher. Whatever is not understood by son, that is understood by parents, because parents have better experience. Similarly, God is the highest intelligent being. God is the purest infinite mind, purest the infinite intelligence, Sarvagya, omniscience. God is omniscience, who is the monitor of all these ideas. So by that way, Berkeley rejected matter, but accepted mind and God as substances. So this is the position of Berkeley, which shall be rejected by David Hume. We shall discuss that in the next session. How Hume rejected this dual policy of Berkeley. That if we are applying the same principle to matter, you are compromising that principle with mind and God. So to be is to be perceived should be taken seriously and should be applied impartially to matter, mind and God. Therefore, David Hume rejected everything. Also in Indian tradition, Lord Buddha rejected everything. No matter, no mind, no God, no substance. So if you are applying one principle, apply that impartially. But Berkeley became a subjective idealist. Because he said that the world is nothing but our sensations. My sensation, my perception is the world. I shall take 1 minute to distinguish between subjective idealism and objective idealism. Those who speak of objective idealism, they think like Hegel. Hegel is just objective idealist. Berkeley is a subjective idealist. Hegel says, like Upanishad, Hegel says that 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 the nature is intelligent. Logic is there in nature. The understanding is there in the nature. Because there is understanding as a principle that exists outside us, that exists in nature as a principle, we are able to think rationally. Our personal logic functions because there is logic in nature. So the very intelligence is not subjective, that is objective. In the Upanishad, it is said Rita. Rita means the cosmic order. There is an order in the nature. This order is not my father's property. Every cause will have its effect. There is a harmony in nature. There is a discipline in nature. This is objective. That is called Rita. Because of that Rita, our law of karma is determined. Everything is determined. So man is always determined. Everything is determined by a fixed principle, that fixed process, that is Rita. But here subjective idealists claim that intelligence is personal. Intelligence is my subjective affair. It is not there in the objective world. So this is the difference between subjective idealism and objective idealism. The logic is personal or it is natural. Logic is natural. It is there in the nature. For example, mathematics is not personal. Mathematics is universal. It is there. A triangle has 3 angles. It is eternal. It is not anybody's creation. That for me, triangle has 3 angles. For you, triangle has 4 angles. No, it is universal. So logic is universal. It is there according to that principle, according to the mathematical equations which are universal. We do mathematics. According to the logical rules, we do logic. According to the syllogistic principles, we do arguments. So there are certain principles which regulate our rational thinking. This is objective. But subjective means that the process of perception is subjective to me. So it is subject to revision, it is subject to correction. It is always relative by nature. So my intelligence is relative because it is subjective. So this is the difference. So now the question comes, the last point, whether Berkeley is a solipsist or not. Solipsism says that nothing is real objectively. My mind is real and my knowledge is real. This is the greatest crisis of the modern world. Everybody thinks that he is the wise person. Whatever he thinks is right and all are fools. If we claim that only my mind is real, my mind and my ideas, these are only real and everything is illusory. So here we shall say that someone is a solipsist. Berkeley is a solipsist or not? There are 2 possible answers. Yes, Berkeley is a solipsist. No, Berkeley is not a solipsist. Berkeley is a solipsist when we shall claim to be is to be perceived, when he is claiming immaterialism, when he is claiming subjective idealism, he is a solipsist. Berkeley is not a solipsist when he is claiming the existence of other minds and the existence of the infinite mind, that is God. If other minds are there and perception is there through other minds, if the perception is scrutinized by a higher mind, that is God, then this is not a position of solipsism. So From the transcendental point of view, from the spiritualistic point of view, Berkeley is not a solipsist. From the epistemological point of view, from the subjective idealistic point of view, Berkeley is a solipsist. So there is a debate upon it whether Berkeley is a solipsist or not. So why such debate? Why there is not a conclusive point? Because of the diplomacy applied by Berkeley. Berkeley accepted immaterialism, but at the same time, Berkeley accepted mind and God as substances. So when he is accepting other minds and God as substances, that other minds are there, then how can he be a solipsist? But this is his spiritualistic point of view. But epistemologically, he is saying that he is a subjective idealist. My mind and my knowledge are only real. So this is a transition from realism to idealism and then to solipsism. So realism has two dimensions, naive realism and a representative realism. Naive realism is the common sense view of realism. We all live with that very practical philosophy that is naive realism. Then comes representative realism, that when we think deeply, philosophically about the nature of our perception, about the nature of the object of our perception, we think about the representatives of the objects instead of the direct objects. Then comes idealism, when we still think deeply and we ask the question whether the object of a perception is really the object or the subject. So here we come to point that no object exists outside my mind. Everything is only my mind's projection, mental projection. This is idealism. So in this way, Berkeley made a compromise and Berkeley introduced God. Therefore, Berkeley's philosophy can be beautifully termed in one phrase, that is theocentric phenomenalism. Theocentric phenomenalism. Berkeley is a phenomenalist, but as he introduced God as the infinite mind, who is the monitor of all finite minds, his philosophy is known as theocentric phenomenalism. But the real sense of phenomenalism, real sense of empiricism will be advocated by David Hume. We shall discuss that in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Das, for your nice lecture. Well, again, another very precise and clear lecture on realism, idealism, and solipsism. Well, I'll not synopsize because the presentation was very much clear. Well, two to three things which are worth noting, taking the reference to first taking a reference to realism, where Professor Das makes a distinction between the common sense realism, which is appropriately called as the naive realism, and the representative realism. Well, in both the forms, one thing is assured, that is, the objects do exist independent of the mind. That is a common phrase, but with a difference when we move to representative realism, that ideas, they stand as the representatives to the objects outside. And where do these ideas stay? They stay in the mind. So whenever there is a contact with an external object, ideas are aroused in the mind. Not that ideas arouse naturally. Whenever there is a contact with an external object, ideas do arouse in the mind, and they are the copies. They are the true copies, attested copies, like the way we have Xerox copies, we have the representations in the mind. So that is the representative realism. So this is one thing that he took, and then moving from that thread, he moved to the idealism of Berkeley, and he tried to see that what Locke did, say the distinction between the primary and the secondary qualities. Locke would refute that there is no such distinction between the primary. Sorry, Berkeley would refute that there is no such distinction between the primary and the secondary qualities. Rather, all qualities are in fact subjective, because he's a subjective idealist. And Professor Das did point out that in advocating the philosophy of subjective idealism, to be is to be perceived, an object does exist, an object exists only when it is perceived. So for existence of an object, it is necessary that it has to be perceived. So he has raised a beautiful question that if nobody is perceiving, there is no perceiver out there in the world. So Berkeley introduces the idea of God. If nobody is perceiving, suppose there is a world, and that will exist when there is a perceiver. But if the question comes, if nobody is perceiving, what about the world? So Berkeley tried to introduce the idea of God to say if nobody is perceiving, God is perceiving. So that's how he tried to bring in the theocentric idea, which Professor Das tried to point out. So it is theocentric because God is forcibly introduced, and introducing God such a force, somehow the thread that we see in Berkeley, talking epistemologically, that fails in his transition to the spiritual mode, because somehow he has to justify God. So that's why somehow a sort of problems, some sort of inconsistencies we can think of in Berkeley, which were later addressed to by David Hume, which will be discussed later on. So one more thing that he very nicely addressed regarding solipsism. Well, it's a question again whether Berkeley is a solipsist or not. So very beautifully said, when we talk epistemologically, when we go with to be is to be perceived, SES percipi. So objects on being perceived, they do exist. Okay, if we go by this philosophy, there is a belief in one's own mind. So you believe in your own mind and your own world, because objects do exist only, or say only those objects do exist that are perceived by you. So you define your world, and you, going back that, you, a person and his own world do exist. So somehow there is a feeling that Berkeley is denying other minds, so and so on. So if we look from that angle, Professor Das is appropriately true and right that there is a feeling that Berkeley is a solipsist. But if we take his spiritual thread, wherein he brings in the idea of God, so bringing in the idea of God is a clear indicator there is another mind. If there is an infinite mind, so everything will fall in. So there is no question of Berkeley being a solipsist, because there creeps in somehow that there are other minds, and viewing from that angle, Berkeley is not a solipsist. So overall, we can say, even though is to be perceived principle somehow seem to suggest that Berkeley is a solipsist, but if we take a spiritual thread, because spiritual leaning in Berkeley is more important, because he has refuted matter, because he says matter as a substratum of qualities is never perceived. He did it only to justify spiritualism. Okay, so that's how overall, if you take the entire scheme of things in Berkeley's philosophy, it would be more appropriate to call say Berkeley is not a solipsist. This is my feeling, my observations. Well, people are now free to interact. They can have their own observations, their own questions. Let me check the chat box. In the meantime, if anybody wants to say something, they are welcome. Their own observations, their own feelings, any suggestions, any queries, Professor Das is there to clarify. Anybody? Well, I see something from Shravani Mishra, madam. She says, giving the differences That one clear. Okay, so it's a compliment to Professor Das that he made certain issues very much clear to all of us. So that's how she is thankful. Well, if somebody wants to say something, they are welcome. One thing, let me to keep on moving till somebody says something. Well, sir, you made a distinction between objective idealism towards the end and the subjective idealism. Well, you took nature as intelligent and everything is given in nature. So man has the subjective element is not to be involved. So actually, I need a bit of more of clarification on this. How to differentiate in clear terms what is objective idealism and rather subjective idealism, making a reference to Berkeley, understandable, but a bit of more of light on objective idealism to make all of us understandable in very clear and plain terms. Please, sir.
That point is that our subjective idealism is possible only because that possibility is there in the nature. Otherwise, so the logic is not a subjective product. Logic is eternal. Okay, therefore I gave an example that triangle has 3 angles, or the 2 right angles are equal to 180 degrees. So then all these mathematical equations or geometrical, man has discovered this, but man is not the creator of these laws. Man is not the, in the Upanishad, it is beautifully said that man is not the creator of Rita, even not God. God has created dharma, but after having created, God becomes a part of dharma, because God, even God is not excused if he will commit adharma. So that dharma, that eternity, that principle, and that is intelligent principle, that is called teleological, that is called teleology. That means there is a purpose, intelligent purpose in nature. For that, logic is possible, mathematics is possible, science is possible. Science is possible only because of the law of causation and the law of, sir, what is that? Law of causation. Uniformity of nature. Yes. Uniformity of nature. So that uniformity of nature is there in the nature. Therefore, science is possible. So no scientist has created uniformity in nature. So similarly, logic is one uniformity that is independent of human minds. Rather, we sometimes misuse that logic. Therefore, we commit fallacy. So the fallacy is a human possibility. There is no fallacy in the eternal logic or eternal intelligence. So that is my point, and that is the point of Hegel also. Hegel says that real is rational, rational is real. Whatever is real, that is rationally real. That is intelligible. Okay, but here when we speak of subjective idealism, here we are concerned with the finite mind of a person. And your subjectivity that is totally different from my subjectivity. Therefore, personalities are different. Many minds, many thoughts. So here we become subjective. Subjective means discrete. Subjective means individuality. When we speak of a general logic or the logic in the nature, that is universality. So this is the difference, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So one thing, objective idealism is another metaphysics. When you say nature is intelligent, you seem to suggest that it is a sort of a universal ideal where
Yes.
everything is given. Okay, so it is objective. So you say nature is intelligent and everything is there. It's a rita, when you translate in the
Order or cosmic order.
it's a cosmic order.
So, in the objective idealists do speak. It's a organic whole wherein everything is there. Okay,
In many, sir, in sir, in very simple words,
not
sir,
connected with the
sir,
other.
sir,
So this is how
sir,
it's another idealistic metaphysics. It's a
sir,
universal.
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir.
That's what I
Yes,
get from Professor Das.
objective ideology
Professor
means,
Das wants to say something. Yes,
yes, objective ideology
raising his
means.
hand probably. Okay.
Hello,
Anyway,
sir.
anyway. Okay.
I am
Want to say
saying,
something, Professor Das?
yes,
No. Yes,
object,
Professor Das wants to say something. Yes, sir.
uh,
Yes, sir. Not audible,
objective.
sir.
Hello,
Oh, अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा. Okay, sorry. अच्छा. Uh, why I'm not able to hear anything? Professor Das, are you saying something?
I am saying about it is not
Now,
audible
now,
to.
now audible, sir. Some technical error.
Okay.
Sir.
Sir, objective means which is free from your subjectivity. Okay, objective means which is free from your subjectivity. Cosmic order is free from your subjectivity. Suppose you fail to understand the cosmic order will be there and it will function. That is the objective intelligence.
Okay, done.
Suppose you don't understand mathematics, mathematical order will be there. Mathematics class will be there. Mathematics teachers will be there. You don't understand, tomorrow you will understand. So your understanding is subjective. But beyond your subjectivity, the understanding as such is there. That is the point. That is called objectivity. Objectivity means which is free from your subjective conditions, limitations. Sir, Dr. Kessi Marana, sir, Dr. Kessi Marana has asked the same question.
No.
He has asked one question.
No.
But what is my stand about Berkeley as a solipsist?
Okay, carry on.
This is his question, which I had discussed, and you have also repeated it. That from the standpoint of subjective idealism, Berkeley is a solipsist. When he says that there is no material existence, everything exists in my mind in a form of idea, and there is also no general idea. Berkeley says every idea is discrete and distinct. There is no general idea. So my mind and my ideas are only real. This is the position of solipsism. Berkeley is called a solipsist from this declaration, when he says that matter is not real, only my mind is real, and my ideas are real. But Berkeley played the double role when he speaks about the other minds and the infinite mind of a God. So from the spiritual standpoint, Berkeley is not a solipsist. This is my stand on Berkeley.
Okay. Thank you.
No spiritualist, remember sir, no spiritualist person. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita also. No spiritualist person can be a solipsist, because whatever he does for Lokasangraha. Your thought is your Jagya, your karma is your Jagya. Your thought is also Jagya. When we are now, I spoke for 1 hour. This is my Jagya. I did for the society. It is recorded. It will be uploaded in the YouTube. What 5 participants or 10 participants, I don't care. But it is for Lokasangraha. So when our action, our thought is meant for Lokasangraha, I am not a solipsist. I am not a subjective idealist. My ideas are very much objective because it is meant for Lokasangraha. So no spiritualist person can be solipsist. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das. Well, one thing that I got not from this, from the earlier discussion, that nature is there and it is functioning, and it will function irrespective of whether the people are there or people are not there. So it is independent of the people being there or anybody being there. So nature has its own course and it will keep on functioning, okay, irrespective of whether people are interacting with nature, whether people are interrogating nature, or people are doing, or say people are exploiting nature. Irrespective of all this, nature has its own course. So that's how it is objective. Well, this is what I got from the response. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. That is the fact, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Because man is the late arrival. Man is the late arrival in this universe. Before man, there was a creation.
Yes.
If all human beings will extinct, other animals will live very happily.
Mm-hmm.
Very happily. Man is the disturbing element.
Okay.
So nature is disturbed by man. Nature is polluted by man. Very unfortunately, I am saying this. So nature is not subjective. Nature is cosmic order is not subjective.
Yes.
Divine plan is not subjective. Suppose even I am an atheist. Even I am an atheist by philosophy, by my conviction, but I am nurtured by the divine blessings. I am nurtured by the cosmic order. Thank you, sir.
But hello. Okay, doctor. Hello.
Yes, Dr. Marana. Yes, sir.
But man is an integral part of the nature. Why do we think that man is the disturbing element for the nature? Because man is a very integral part of nature. ମାନେ ମଣିଷର ନ୍ୟାଚୁରାଲ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିକୋଣରୁ ସେ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ ଭାବରେ ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରକୃତି ପାଇଁ ସହାୟକ। ତାକୁ କାହିଁକି ଆମେ ସବୁତକ ଡିଷ୍ଟର୍ବାନ୍ସ ମଣିଷଠୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଇଛି ବୋଲି ଆମେ କହିବା?
ହଁ, because the privilege of man is that man is rational, but the crisis is that man is misusing his rationality. Man is misusing his rationality. Man is the only creature who can do adharma by knowing dharma. Therefore, Duryodhana said that I know what is dharma, but I don't have pravruti to follow it. I know what is adharma, but I don't have that sense of abstention. So that means man knows what is dharma, what is right, what is wrong. Man has that rationality. But man has another dimension, that man is the only creature who can misuse his freedom, who can misuse his rationality. That is only a human possibility. जो परिवेश आज दूषित होइछि केवल मनुष्य ପାଇଁ। ମଣିଷର ଦରକାର ଯୋଉ କାଠ କାଟିକି ଚେୟାର କରିବ, ବିଲରେ ଘର କରିବ, ସବୁ କିଛି ମଣିଷ ତାର ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ପାଇଁ କରିଛି। ମ୍ୟାନ୍ ଇଜ ଦ ସେଣ୍ଟର ଅଫ ଏଭ୍ରିଥିଙ୍ଗ। ମ୍ୟାନ୍ ଥିଙ୍କ୍ସ that he is the center of everything, he is the measure of everything, he is the standard of everything. That is wrong. Therefore, now we are introduced with ethics and value in our education, that man should be ethical. Therefore, in Veda, it is said that Manur Bhava, be a human being. Why it is said to man? Because in man there is a possibility of being a non-human being. ମଣିଷଟିଏ ଅମଣିଷ ହବାର ସମ୍ଭାବନା ରଖିଛି ବୋଲି ମଣିଷକୁ ବାରମ୍ବାର ୱାର୍ଣ୍ଣିଂ ଦିଆଯାଉଛି, ମଣିଷଟିଏ ହୁଅ, ମଣିଷ ପରି ବିହେଭ କର। କାହିଁ କୁକୁର ତ କହନି କୁକୁରଟେ ହବ ବୋଲି, କାହିଁ ତ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କୁ କୁହାହଉନି ଆପଣ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କ ପରି ହୁଅନ୍ତୁ, କାହିଁକି ମଣିଷକୁ କୁହାହଉଛି ମଣିଷଟିଏ ହୁଅ? Because man is intelligent, because man is rational. So our rationality should be our asset, should not be our liability. Our rationality should not be the instrument of any type of damage to the society. highly qualified doctor, highly educated doctor, rational doctor, he's stealing kidney from the patients because he's a man. ଯଦି ଗୋଟେ କୁକୁର ଡକ୍ଟର ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା ସେଇଟା କରିନଥାନ୍ତା. So this is the difference between ମୁଁ ମଣିଷ ସମାଜକୁ ଏଇପରି ଭାବରେ କହୁଛି କାହିଁକିନା ମଣିଷ ହଉଛି ଏକମାତ୍ର ପ୍ରାଣୀ ଯିଏ ଗୋଟେ ଛୋଟ ଛୁଆକୁ ରେପ୍ କରିପାରେ. Animals never do rape. Animals ମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ସେକ୍ସ ରିଲେସନ ହୁଏ ସେତେବେଳେ both male and female must be mature physically. Otherwise there will be no relation. But here a man can rape a 5-year-old girl who is not mature physically, mentally. This is a human possibility. A doctor can steal kidney. A teacher can do. A teacher shall become very much professional. He will not do his duty. Therefore, there is police station for human being. There is jail custody for human being. There is no such things for animals, for plants, because they are regulated by the objective cosmic order. Because man is subjective, man is interfering with the objective cosmic order. This is the difference. So man is the crisis. Therefore, we have education. Therefore, we have spiritual training, spiritual discourse. Therefore, we should take the help of teachers, scriptures.
Okay, Professor. Please
Yes,
have
sir.
a discussion. One day, please have a discussion on man is the crisis.
Okay, that tomorrow I will say about dialectical thinking. Tomorrow I shall say that about dialectical thinking. That will be clear. I don't touch that today because that was not the topic today. Tomorrow I shall say that in the dialectical thinking. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So to this, one thing I need to add up. Well, Professor Das has said, but in one assertion, everything can be captured. That is, man thinks he is the center of everything, number one, and he says that everything is made for man. Having these two assumptions, he misuses nature. But that sense of, say, thought, we do not find in animals. But this happens in a rational mind who thinks that everything out there in the nature, it is for man and man alone. So there lies the entire crisis. So that's how the organic relationship, the web of connections with the various ecosystems, the various operations out there in the nature, somehow they get failed. It is because of man's excessive position over nature, trying to go over nature, going against nature, we find imbalances in nature. So it is what Professor Das said, it is man-made, and man is the greatest culprit because he feels that everything is for man and man is at the center. He has all the ability and power, everything, to exercise control over everything, whatever is out there in the nature. So that's the real crisis which man has to know, which man has to realize. There is a web of connection. Any disturbance to any species out there in this nature is ultimately going to destroy this human species. Man must realize, and the time has come. Thank you very much. Well, I see good compliments from Shravani Misra Madam. She says very educative on various issues that this webinar has generated. But one line of thought from Patnaik sir is welcome. Sir, you are there throughout the session, so few lines from you would really help us. Please unmute, sir. Please unmute, sir. Sir, please unmute. Patnaik sir. Sir, not audible, sir. Please unmute. Microphone da ko on kor dun, sir. Microphone off hochi, sir. Well,
Sir is speaking, but sir is speaking something, but
his
he's
microphone, sir, microphone ta ko on kar diyantu, sir.
What?
Microphone ta off hochi, sir.
Unmuted.
Patnaik sir, microphone off hochi. Kichi suna jauni, sir.
sir, please unmute yourself.
Se jo speaker ko on karantu, sir. Yes, well, we are not able to hear what Patnaik sir is saying. Well, Shravani Mishra madam has said a very nice thing, that if man goes by nature, in accordance with nature, very true to nature, in the lines of nature, under the shade of nature, there is no crisis. But if man is challenging nature, there is crisis. So very nicely said, madam. Thank you. Everything is natural, because man is again a natural being. He's not artificial. He's again in a part of nature. As Dr. Kailas Mahana said, man is a part and parcel of nature. So man is again natural, and he should behave naturally, then there is no crisis. But if man challenges nature, and there is crisis, and the crisis that we all know. Thank you all. But anyway, Sir Patnaik sir is trying to say something. Well, nothing is audible. Well, we should end up now. I think we should end up now. Okay. So thank you very much, sir, Professor Das, for your nice lecture, and also Dr. Maharana and all others for beautiful questions. Ramani Mr. Madam. Well, now I request Swarna Madam for proposing a formal vote of thanks. Well, Patnaik sir, do you want to say something, sir? Your microphone is off. Anyway, let us move to Swarnalata Tripathi Madam for the formal vote of thanks.
Pranam to all. We had a beautiful discussion today on the topic Realism, Idealism and Solipsism. Pramod sir explained how realism leads to skepticism and idealism leads to solipsism. We are grateful to Pramod sir. We are grateful to Dr. K. Om Narayana sir for his presence with us in all the sessions. His lucid way of moderation add extra value to our efforts in making this webinar series successful. We thank all the participants for participating in the discussion. Their presence is our inspiration. We shall meet again tomorrow with our Sunday program in Philosophy Family. We give special thanks to Sri K.C. Patnaik sir and Saboni madam. Thank you all. Pranam.
Yes, thank you. I also thank you, madam, for being connected to Philosophy Family through Wisdom Intellectual Forum Puri. Thank you very much. Yes, as you rightly said, we must be thankful to K.C. Patnaik sir and Shravani madam, because I see them constantly. They are with us, and I should salute them for their involvement. So thank you. So thanking everybody, all the participants, even Kailas Mahana sir for his presence, and all others who have really made this program very successful. I should thank the speaker once again. So with these words, may I declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Thank you.